A lot of people think you need 50 properties or 20 years to get financially free, but you really don't. I own a portfolio of 20 properties and I can tell you firsthand, you don't need loads of houses and you definitely don't need to wait decades. In fact, with just 5 ugly properties, you can fully replace your income and buy back your time. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how this works step by step. So let's get into it. So ever since I was young, I've always understood that to build wealth, property is one of the best vehicles to do that. But at the same time, I always thought that, to build wealth in property, you need to buy modern luxury homes in these, great pristine areas. And you probably know what I'm talking about. Those houses that you post on Instagram, marble worktops and the wow factor. But here's the truth. Most financially free landlords I know, they didn't start with these beautiful modern homes. They started with buying the ugly ones. I'm talking about dodgy carpets, those nicotine stained walls, the dodgy boilers, the lot. And it's these ugly properties that are gold mines if you know what you're doing. There's a quote somewhere that I've read. It says that opportunities are usually disguised as hard work, so people don't recognize them. And this is exactly how it is in property. But let's clear something up. Financially free isn't about being a millionaire on paper. It's about one thing, and that's cash flow. Specifically, having enough income coming in passively to cover your lifestyle. That's what you call your financial freedom number. And to give you an example, let's say your life, right? It costs you £2,500 per month. That's £30,000 a year. So effectively, your financial freedom number is £30,000 a year. So if your properties can pay you that £30,000, whether you're working or not, you're essentially financially free. Now, maybe your number is £60,000, maybe it's £100,000, whatever it is, the math is what we focus in this video. So going back to buying these ugly properties, where people mess up is when a house looks bad, most people, they tend to walk away. But you should be doing the opposite. You should be going into these properties because it's these properties, these ugly ones that most people walk away from, that usually go below market value because most buyers, they want the turnkey properties. I once picked up a property that was £35,000 under what most houses on the street sold for because the wallpapers, it just looks like something from the 70s. But 8 weeks of refurb, a bit of paint, a bit of carpets, a bit of plastering, and boom, that property got revalued at full market price. And the beauty with these ugly properties that you're not waiting for the market to do the heavy lifting, right? You're creating your own equity by improving the property itself. And we've done hundreds of projects in our deal sourcing business, and we've seen it so many times where we've managed to add £40,000 in added value just with a £15,000 refurb, and we've done tens and tens and tens of these properties, right? Because the thing with these ugly properties is that you can control the outcome, and that's what makes it scalable and more predictable. So if you know how to buy, refurb, rent, refinance, and then repeat, those ugly homes are actually your best friend. You buy low, refurb, refinance most of your money out, and then you rent it for monthly cash flow. And we're able to do this repeatedly without having to buy these nice properties. We're buying ugly houses all the time. But BRR itself is not going to make you financially free, right? BRR is just a strategy. So how do you actually start making money to become financially free? Let's answer that because this is what you're here for. So what most people do is when they're trying to figure out their financial freedom figure, and I used to do this myself, what I would do is, for example, I'll say, okay, I need to make £2,000 a month. Each property will cash flow me, buy-to-let property will cash flow me £200. So what I need to do, I need to go buy 10 of them, right? Making £200 each, that gives me my £2,000 a month. But then you realize that the £200 profit after cost is actually quite tight, right? You need 15, maybe 20 properties to hit your number. And now you've created yourself another job, not freedom. So the better question is, what if you didn't focus on monthly cash flow first? What if you focused on wealth building? Because here's the thing that most UK investors, they tend to overlook, especially when you're at the start. If you build a portfolio worth, say, £1 million and you own it outright, right? So you've got no debt on it, no mortgage, or if you've got enough equity, let's say, you can easily turn that into £50,000-60,000 a year in passive income. Even a modest 5 to 6% return, which is pretty crap, by the way. For context, my portfolio, it generates me anything between 15 to 17% ROI, return on investment, but that's because I'm experienced. But let's just say because you're inexperienced, you're doing this for the first time, let's say a modest 5 to 6%, which is still crap by the way, but it's achievable, right? It's conservative with these, even with these buy to lets. That 5 to 6% is more than enough. So instead of obsessing over cash flow and telling yourself the story that you need to buy 10 or 20 properties in the Midlands or up north, £200 a month cash flow each, you need to start thinking to yourself, how do I build £1 million worth of property that I control? And to walk you through an example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ditch my laptop and I'm going to pull out my iPad. So let's say you buy a solid 3-bedroom house in a decent UK area, something around £200,000. And these kind of houses, guys, they're all over the Midlands, the Yorkshire, Northwest, Northeast, even the outskirts of the Southeast. If you know where to look, just go on Rightmove, filter out the prices, £200,000 and you'll find plenty of them. Okay, so the next step is that house might rent out for £1,200 a month. Now, once it's mortgage free and after your insurance, maintenance and a bit of void allowance, you might be left with around £850 a month. Okay, £850 a month in positive cash flow. We'll call this green. So if you times that £850 a month, that works out to £10,200 a month. And if you just own 5 of these properties, that works out to over £50,000 a year in passive income. And guess what? You don't need to own those properties mortgage free today, right? You can grow into that, and let me show you how. So step 1 is buying 1 rental property per year. Forget trying to scale fast. If you bought 1 good property a year in 5 years, guess what? You'd have 5 properties. You don't need 20, you don't need 50. Buy well, hold long term, and that's the long term game. Okay, so you buy your first property, then step number 2 is you build simple systems, or in other words, get a great lettings agent. This is where most landlords mess up. What they'll do is they'll buy properties and they end up getting themselves a second job managing those properties, right? You want systems. That could be a letting agent, or it could be you with good processes, checklists, tools. Letting management doesn't have to be hard if it's structured well, if you hire well. Because if you truly want financial freedom, which means you can pack up and go and leave another country for a holiday whenever you feel like it, or you can take a day off work whenever you feel like it, just like I can do with my portfolio. Then if you're managing those tenants, then you're never really financially free. You don't need to manage tenants, you need to manage managers. I've got a letting agent. Every single one of my 20 properties is managed by a management company. There's different management companies I use, but most of them is with 90% of them. But they're going to screen tenants. They're going to handle your repairs. They're going to chase the rents. They're going to manage everything for you. So that way, property is not a second job for you. It truly is passive income, or as passive as it can be. The moment you stop trying to save this 50, 60 pounds a month on management fees, that's the moment that your income becomes passive. So remember that, guys. And just start thinking about how you can simplify, you can automate things, right? If it takes you an hour to do a particular task, then how can you make it into 15 minutes next time? How can you build a system which is repeatable, which you can outsource to even a virtual assistant? These little things or these decisions that you make initially, what's going to allow you to become financially free through property. And this is exactly what I do for my property business as well. Let's just take refurbs as an example. We've got spec sheets, we've got supplier lists, we've got labor budgets. And by just having these little things, we notice that we've started to shave off weeks of each project, and we're doing like 15, 20 projects a month. Can you imagine how much time we have saved collectively just by having some systems and processes in place? So buy 1 property a year and then get systems and processes in place. And then step number 3 is be patient and let time work for you. I always say this, that property is not a get rich quick scheme. It's a get rich for sure scheme, right? So let time do its job, guys. You cannot speed up time, because over time, guys, your properties will go up in price, your rents will go up, mortgage gets paid down by inflation, and the longer you hold, the better the game gets. And then the final step is harvest your equity later, and this is where the magic happens. So let me give you an example. Let's say after 7 to 10 years now, you've bought those, let's just say you've bought 2 properties. You'll have built a decent chunk of equity in those 2 properties. So what you can do is you can refinance those 2 properties to buy other properties, or what you could do is, if you've got, let's say, multiple properties, right, and only one of them's paid off, you could sell a couple of them and clear the rest. And what this reshuffling enables you to do is that you end up with a few options, and you could end up with a portfolio of debt-free or low debt properties producing that 50 to 70k a year in pure income. And that's how you get financial freedom, by just 5 ugly properties. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh, but I don't have £200,000 lying around, you don't need it. Use deposits, use leverage, use equity from your properties. So start where you are, because building, 5 properties in the UK, it's totally doable. It's not easy. It just takes a clear plan, a bit of patience, and a focus on buying smart, not buying big. So if you ever thought that financial freedom was out of reach for you because you either needed a huge portfolio, you needed lots of money, or both, now you know the truth. So if you need help with analyzing numbers on your next buy-to-let property, I'm going to pull up a video called How to Analyze a Property Deal, no calculators or spreadsheets. Go watch that video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next week.